From Studio 1A in Tampa, Florida, comes a talk show that really feels your pain and tells you like it is. We love America and all that freedom-loving Americans want to protect. Live from coast to coast and on your radio, it's For the People with Keith Allen.
We'll help you survive this thing called life. We're for the people. Whatever your source of stress or strife, for the people is there.
Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Keith Allen and proudly welcoming you to this Wednesday's edition of For the People. It's May the 3rd, it's 2017, and guess who's in the hot seat once again? James Comey. Yes, the director of the FBI is testifying right now as we speak before the Senate committee. And Senator Feinstein is up, and she's been talking how central Comey's role was to the outcome of the 2016 election. And she says that the Comey letter was a big October surprise, but none of the new emails changed the FBI's decision. But she says it did change the outcome of the election. This is what a lot of the left is saying. This is another last-ditch effort. And believe me, I am all for oversight committees and questioning and direct questioning and all of this, but didn't we kind of go down this road before? And I think so. But some of the sounds right now with Senator Grassley opening up and then Dianne Feinstein, and just to kind of hear what the conversation is today. But, man, you got to give it to James Comey, head up, and he's prepared to answer all questions. Here's Grassley.
And these tools must adapt to both evolving technology and threats while preserving our civil liberties. I hope we can also hear from the director about the FBI's use of some of these tools that may require Congress's attention. And most obviously, the FISA Section 702 authority is up for reauthorization at the end of the year. This authority provides the government the ability to collect the electronic communications of foreigners outside the United States with the compelled assistance of American companies. And Bush and Obama administrations were strongly supportive of 702, and now the Trump administration is as well. From all accounts, the law has proven to be highly effective in helping to protect the United States and our allies. The Privacy and Civil Liberties Oversight Board and many other federal courts have found Section 702 constitutional and consistent with our Fourth Amendment. Yet questions and concerns persist for many about its effects on our civil liberties, specifically in the way the FBI queries data collected under Section 702. In addition, the director has spoken out often about how the use of encryption by terrorists and criminals is eroding the effectiveness of one of the FBI's core investigative tools, a warrant based on probable cause. I look forward to an update from you, Director Comey, on the going dark problem.
All right, so let's fast track a little bit. Comey's open now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Feinstein, members of the committee, thank you for having this annual oversight hearing about the FBI. I know that sounds a little bit like someone saying they're looking forward to going to the dentist, but I really do mean it. I think oversight of the FBI of all parts of government, but especially the one I'm lucky enough to lead, is essential. I think it was John Adams who wrote to Thomas Jefferson that power always thinks it has a great soul. The way you guard against that is having people ask hard questions, ask good questions, and demand straightforward answers. And I promise you I will do my absolute best to give you that kind of answer today. I also appreciate the conversation I know we're going to have today and over the next few months about reauthorizing Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act that you mentioned, Mr. Chairman. This is a tool that is essential to the safety of this country. I did not say the same thing about the collection of telephone dialing information by the NSA. I think that's a useful tool. 702 is an essential tool, and if it goes away, we will be less safe as a country. And I mean that, and we'll be happy to talk more about that. Thank you for engaging on that so we can tell the American people why this matters so much and why we can't let it go away. As you know, the magic of the FBI that you oversee is its people. And we talk, as we should, a lot about our counterterrorism work, about our counterintelligence work, and I'm sure we'll talk about that today. But I thought I would just give you some idea of the work that's being done by those people all over the country, all over the world, every day, every night, all the time. And I pulled 3 cases that happened and were finished in the last month just to illustrate it. The first was something I know that you followed closely, the plague of threats against Jewish community centers that this country experienced in the first few months of this year. Children frightened, old people frightened, terrifying threats of bombs at Jewish institutions, especially the Jewish community centers. The entire FBI surged in response to that threat, working across all programs, all divisions, our technical wizards, using our vital international presence, and using our partnerships, especially with the Israeli National Police. We made that case, and the Israelis locked up the person behind those threats and stopped that terrifying plague against the Jewish community centers. Second case I wanted to mention is, all of you know what a botnet is. These are the zombie armies of computers that have been taken over by criminals, lashed together in order to do tremendous harm to innocent people. Last month, the FBI, working with our partners with the Spanish National Police, took down a botnet called the Kelios botnet and locked up the Russian hacker behind that botnet, who made a mistake that Russian criminals sometimes make of leaving Russia and visiting the beautiful city of Barcelona. And he's now in jail in Spain. And the good people's computers who had been lashed to that zombie army have now been freed from it and are no longer part of a huge criminal enterprise. And the last one I'll mention is, this past week, for the first time since Congress passed a statute making it a crime in the United States to engage in female genital mutilation, to mutilate little girls. It's been a felony in the United States since 1996. We made the first case last week against doctors in Michigan for doing this terrifying thing to young girls all across the country. With our partners in the Department of Homeland Security, we brought a case against 2 doctors for doing this to children. This is among the most important work we do, protecting kids especially, and it was done by great work that you don't hear about a whole lot all across the country by the FBI. It is the honor of my life. I know you look at me like I'm crazy for saying this about this job. I love this work. I love this job. And I love it because of the mission and the people I get to work with. Some of whose work I just illustrated by pulling those 3 cases from last month, but it goes on all the time, all around the country, and we're safer for it. I love representing these people, speaking on their behalf, and I look forward to your questions today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so there's James Comey, and standing by his FBI, and there's no doubt about it. When you hear some of the stuff that the FBI does and what they do, I mean, sometimes we don't hear about all of these things, but the genitalia thing, I was reading about that a little over a week ago, and I just absolutely couldn't believe it. But thank God that they were prosecuted. But there are those that, in the Muslim religion that embrace that female operation that literally destroys the genitalia of a female. And it's really a shame. But this doctor was performing them, getting paid for them, and hopefully we don't hear any more of those cases. But there's people that subscribe to it. And it's very popular, by the way, in the Middle East. But now we're seeing it here stateside, where people are just okaying it. All right, Dianne Feinstein, this lady, oh my goodness. But this is the rhetoric. This is the same stuff that the left is trying to pull out to try to find collusion between the Trump administration, Trump getting into the White House, winning by overwhelming numbers the Electoral College vote, getting into the White House, where just this past week, Clinton has been making, and she knew that these hearings were going to be taking place, saying that if it wasn't for James Comey, she would be the president. She would be the sitting president. That's her narrative. And now she's pushing her new book, folks, okay, that because of the FBI, everything's the FBI right now. It has nothing to do with her disconnect, not connecting. It has nothing to do with her lies or nothing like that. Remember, it's lie and deny with Hillary Rotten Clinton. Feinstein right now with questions.
This is the committee's annual oversight hearing to conduct that oversight of the FBI. So usually we review and ask questions about the FBI's work that ranges from major federal law enforcement priorities to the specific concerns of individual members of the committee. However, this hearing takes place at a unique time. Last year, for the first time, the FBI and its investigation of a candidate for president became the center of the closing days of a presidential election. Before voters went to the polls last November, they had been inundated with stories about the FBI's investigation of Senator Clinton's emails. The press coverage was wall to wall. Every day there was another story about Secretary Clinton's emails. Every day questions were released. Every day questions were raised about whether classified information had been released or compromised. And over again, there was commentary from the FBI about its actions and investigation. On July 5, 2016, 2 months before the election, Director Comey publicly announced that the FBI had concluded its investigation and determined that no reasonable prosecutor would bring a case against Secretary Clinton. That should have been the end of the story, but it wasn't. 11 days before the election, on October 28, 2016, Director Comey then announced that the FBI was reopening the Clinton investigation because of emails on Anthony Weiner's computer. This explosive announcement, and it was, came unprompted and without knowing whether a single email warranted a new investigation. It was, in fact, a big October surprise. But in fact, as it turned out, not one email on the laptop changed the FBI's original conclusion that no prosecution was warranted. And only 2 days before the election, the FBI sent another public letter to Congress affirming its original conclusion. This was extraordinary, plain and simple. I join those who believe that the actions taken by the FBI did, in fact, have an impact on the election. What's worse is that while all of this was going on in the public spotlight, while the FBI was discussing its investigation into Senator Clinton's email server in detail, I cannot help but note that it was noticeably silent about the investigation into the Trump campaign and Russian interference into the election. In June 2016, the press reported that Russian hackers had infiltrated the computer system of the Democratic National Committee. In response, then candidate Trump and his campaign began goading the Russian government into hacking Secretary Clinton. 2 months later, in August, on Twitter, Roger Stone declared, "Trust me, it will soon be Podesta's time in the barrel," end quote. He then bragged that he was in communication with WikiLeaks, and this was during the campaign in Florida. He told a group of Florida Republicans that founder Julian Assange and that there would be no telling what the October surprise might be, end quote. Clearly, he knew what he was talking about. 2 months later, on October 7, thousands of emails from John Podesta's account were published on WikiLeaks. We now know that through the fall election, the FBI was actively investigating Russia's efforts to interfere with the presidential campaign and possible involvement of Trump campaign officials in those efforts. Yet the FBI remained silent. In fact, the FBI summarily refused to even acknowledge the existence of any investigation. It's still very unclear, and I hope, Director, that you will clear this up, why the FBI's treatment of these two investigations was so dramatically different. With the Clinton email investigation,